Hello, and welcome to the Gambling Files podcast. The podcast that, if you're watching the video, is 50% about wearing hats and 50% about not. I'm your host, John Bruford, joined by your other host and chairman, Fintan Costello. Fintan, hello.
Hello, John.
What's going on with your hat there? What's that logo?
I was just feeling in a hat mood.
I've seen you in that hat before, though. Is it a fashionable hat? It appears to be a snapback style cap.
I believe it is.
Did you leave the sticker on?
I didn't leave the sticker on.
Fintan.
I don't think it came with a sticker.
It's decreased in value.
I don't think it came with a sticker.
But what's the scary man?
Where did I go? I got this one. I did a race and it was like the logo. It was, what was it? It was the obstacle course race. Fucking Last Ninja or Samurai or something they call it. Or so it was some sort of Japanese warrior theme or something like that. So I think it's some.
Have you ever seen the amazing? It's Andre the Giant's face and the Obey sticker, and it's graffiti all over the world.
I love it.
You see it in really odd places, but it's a real tie-in of Andre the Giant's face, just for the word in beautiful typography. Obey.
Love it.
Magnificent. Google it. It's well worth it. But that's what I think of when I see your hat.
Fair enough. Obey.
Yeah. I think of obedience when I see your hat, Fintan. And there's not many people that I'm subservient to, but I guess you, in that hat, is one of them.
Doesn't feel like it where I'm sitting, John.
Fuck you.
Exactly. See what I got to profit.
Anyway.
That's why I love you. It's why I love you. Don't change.
Anyway, Fintan.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to, before we talk about things, I'd like to just mention at least one of our sponsors, the effervescent Clarion Gaming.
Mm-hmm.
We got Ice coming up. Ice coming up really fast. It's like, what, 4 months away? 5 months away?
Yeah, it's not long.
It's not long at all. I'm trying to I've got quite an interesting guest lined up for a chat about that, but it's not confirmed yet, so I can't say anything. I don't even know why I brought it up.
You know what we should do? You know what we should do?
What?
We should get like a restaurant person or something in. So like, okay, here's where you want to go for tapas. Here's where you want to go for steak. Here's where you want to go for cheeky little drink. Nice glass of wine.
Hey, we could ask for that.
Who?
Tim. You know Tim.
Tim? I know lots of Tims. I'm just trying to...
Well, name some of the Tims.
The Tim I've got top of mind, I don't think is the guy.
Well, name some of your Tims and I'll say if it's the same Tim as my Tim.
No. Give me your Tim. Who are you saying?
Tim Phillips.
Tim Phillips. I don't know Tim Phillips.
What? How can you not know Tim Phillips? Old Phillipsy. I can't believe you don't know Tim. But you must know Tim Phillips because he's, he was at that place. No, he was at Betfair, actually.
Okay. Don't think I met Tim.
Hang on, what was he at Betfair? Director of Public Affairs.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have met him.
And Expansion Gaming. He's done also. He's a lovely fella, and he lives in Barcelona.
Nice.
I'm going to ask Tim. I'm going to email him now.
I think you should.
It's a really good idea, though. I like that.
I know. I thought so.
Tim.
But there's nothing worry. You're going to a new city, and maybe you got a week of conferences, and you need to do, lunches and dinners and stuff, and a bit of entertainment. And
Fintan, you'll find that this one of the habits of highly successful people.
Yeah, go on. Tell me, John.
They do shit when it needs to be done.
Really? Noted. No, I'll write that down. Get shit
Don't.
done.
I'll email it to you.
I'm emailing it to you now.
No, let's not be presumptuous.
Have you done it yet?
You've got so many email addresses.
I do. I'm a complicated man, John. Or I like to pretend to be anyway. I'm actually a very simple man. As we find out in today's episode.
To be done. Send.
So we do.
Yeah, it's done.
Excellent. Thanks,
It'd be nice. And if you put a little star by it, you'll be able to find it easily in times of need. When you're sitting there thinking, when should I do things?
What would John do right now? Turns on Netflix.
You ever see that there was a fantastic online brand thing, which was what would Jesus do?
Mm-hmm.
And you could get what would Jesus do pants and things for American listeners, underpants.
Yeah.
We should get some what would John do merch.
Oh, it'd still work, wouldn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, that's funny. That could work. Yeah. All right,
Really
I need to
could.
open our merch account. Right.
But we're also sponsored by the very excellent people at Optimove, the CRM software providers for the gambling industry.
They are brilliant. The number one.
It's a great product. There's no getting around it. And everybody I know that's using it says it's really good. It's really brilliant. And they talk like that as well. That's the weird thing.
Yeah, it works. It does the job, which is rare, right? Because typically what happens is, the sales guy comes in, promises you the world, and then there's the reality of actually trying to.
Of course, it'll integrate with that system from 1997. Yeah. It won't be a problem. We can sort that out for you.
We've got that. Yeah,
it'll cost you £100,000,
and never happen. So having stuff that actually works, and it's fair play to them. I can see why they become number one. And the thing is, it doesn't happen stuff like that doesn't happen overnight, right? They've been grinding away at this for years, right? So it's sweat and tears stuff that's gone into it. Brilliant.
Yeah. I think, I might be wrong, but I think I'm probably going to win the lottery at some point this week.
Oh.
Not the genetic lottery, which I've clearly already won. But the actual one that gives
you a small prize pool.
Yeah, I won a lucky dip.
Wasn't even the meat platter.
I'd have been delighted with the meat platter.
It's the car wash voucher or something. It's fucking cheers.
Everybody's car needs cleaning, Fintan, and that's not a euphemism. But actually, there's a thing. I got a new car.
Ooh, sponsorships are available.
Get the car sponsored.
Get the wrap.
Then I wouldn't, because I've been struggling with what to name the car. I've almost got too many choices. What? Don't tell me your car doesn't have a name.
It's called Optimove.
Well, that's what I want my car to be called.
Look, I called shotgun on it. You're stuck with Clarion. Deal with it.
That's not the end of the world. I can, because I'll probably be driving it. Oh no, shit! I won't be driving it to ice. Not this year. Sorry, not next year. Ooh, ice needs a flight. Shit.
In a hotel.
Well, no, that's why I want to get Tim on. I want to ask him if I can crash at his.
Okay. It's like, who the fuck is this?
John who? Yes, that's right, Tim. No, you know.
Block list.
So, who have we got on this episode, Fintan?
We have what I would describe, and a lot of other people would agree, a poker industry and poker world legend. All right. We have the wonderful Chris Straghalis. Chris, I can't remember his exact title, but basically, Chris is the poker expert's poker expert. is probably the best. I know there's a fancier title than that.
Hang on. I've got his title here somewhere. That's my doctor.
Director of
Online Poker Experience.
There we go. So basically, what this means is when people he'd never say this out loud, or even think it, but I'll say it for him. When people in PokerStars have a poker problem, they come to Chris. That's the way to think about it. Chris has been with PokerStars for years. I was very lucky and privileged to literally sit beside Chris and work alongside Chris at PokerStars. And I learned a tremendous amount from that man across lots of different aspects of the gambling industry to business to life. He's a wonderful, wonderful person. And he's Strag. There's no way to describe it. It's just a pretty unique guy. I love him.
Do you remember from your time sitting quite literally next to him, do you remember if there were any snacks that he favoured particularly?
Snacks? I didn't really see him as a snacker.
I always assume that poker players are snackers because, it's not something you dip into for a 10-minute game. You'll spend a couple of hours doing it. Surely it's the great snacker game.
I never played poker with Chris.
Well, that's probably for the best.
It was very deliberate of just I knew there was always a home game or something going on and all that kind of stuff. But that old, if you can't spot the idiot at the table, it's you. I knew I was the idiot that was going to be sitting at the table.
Well, there's no idiots in this podcast. Fuck. That works. So I don't really enjoy losing money like that. So it wasn't for me. But no, it's I don't know if he snacked. I'm sure he did. I know he likes a beer. I know he likes good food. But I'm not sure. We could do a follow-up. There is a casino industry snacks podcast just waiting to happen, I think. What snack would you be remembered as loving?
I do like a wasabi pea.
Yeah, it's a good shout. But it's all about the wasabi, less about the pea, surely.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But the ones I'm talking about are it's like wasabi and then there's like a shell and then there's a peanut inside. Do you know those ones?
Wouldn't that be a wasabi nut?
Yeah, but they're called wasabi peas, I think. And wasabi nuts, maybe they are.
You can get wasabi peas that are actually peas.
Oh, no. The ones I'm thinking of it's like little peanut inside a shell. I think
I know the ones you mean. They're still delicious.
I don't know what they're called because it's all in Dutch and I just grab them off the shelf in the supermarket. Recently,
I've been, and again, not a euphemism, I've been dehydrating beef. Because I bought, it sounds like I've been on some crazed spending spree, but actually I bought an air fryer in an attempt to get my electricity bills down. I sent the electricity supplier the meter readings and they came back and said, you now owe us £3,000. And I'm like,
what the fuck?
But that's fucking ridiculous because I have oil-fired hot water and heating.
There's clearly something, their estimates have gone completely arseways or something.
Well, no, I put the wrong thing in the wrong box, basically. Not the first time I've done that, I can tell you. But
that is a euphemism.
that is, yeah, that 100%. No, and I wasn't terribly pleased with their response because I wrote back to them and I explained that there's very little electricity used in this place. So
surely all you got to do is send them a photo of the. Oh,
I've done that since, but at this point, I wasn't aware that was where I'd fucked up.
Okay. So you're
go back to them and say, how the fuck could I possibly owe you £3,000? Not least in the fucking summer.
Hmm.
And they came back, and this bloke,
the grow farm out the back. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
My bad. I'm going to turn the hydroponics off during the day.
I'm drying the beef.
I can only dry it a few times a day. Oh no, hang on. That's a very different. Sorry.
Very different.
But no, so the bloke comes back and he's like, it's like he was explaining it to somebody foreign, and he'd suddenly started speaking louder and more slowly. And was explaining how you have to pay for the electricity you use, and the meter shows you how much electricity you've used. And I'm like, you can fuck off. That was when we went to the picture, and they decided that maybe they realize how. And now my direct debits come down as well. It's like, but anyway, so I bought this air fryer, and it's got a dehydrate setting on it. So I've got some beef dehydrating as we speak. Which, if you're thinking about watching the video, again, not a euphemism. You're not going to see anything dodgy. It's just beef in an air fryer. That's all. Okay. It's all above board. So that's my current snack of choice.
Good for you.
Thanks. I'm enjoying it. I went a long way around the house there to say beef, didn't I?
You did. Given that we started off talking about our guest, we've ended up talking about your electricity bill and dehydrator.
And how shit I am at reading a meter. It's a little bit embarrassing, isn't it?
It's not a mistake you want to make, mate.
It's not my finest hour, but the terminology on the meter is different to the terminology on the supplier's website, unfortunately.
Sounds like a design flaw.
What you going to do? So, so we hear about interview techniques. We hear about why on earth somebody would hire Fintan, and many stories and tales from Chris's decades at PokerStars, and it's another lovely episode. So thanks to our kind, benevolent sponsors, and meet Chris. We're joined by a really excellent guest this week. One of the finest job titles I think we've ever had on this podcast. We're joined by Chris Straghalis, who is Director of Online Poker Experience at PokerStars. Chris, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now, I heard, I don't know whether this might be an urban myth, right? But I heard that it was you that interviewed Fintan and gave him a job. Why'd you do that?
I remember this interview, right? Vividly.
Do you know what?
And I sat there looking at the deck of cards in his top pocket, going, if he takes out this deck of cards, I'm fucked.
You know what's funny? The amount of people that have told me over the years that I am a really hard interview and that I'm like intimidating and really like, and they remember that I interviewed them. And I swear, I have no memory of it. Not a single.
You know, I've learned this the hard way. Do you know what it is? Because you're such a good poker player, I'm not blowing smoke, you're an accomplished poker player. You've got a great poker face. Right. So I've been interviewed by two great people. There's yourself, and then previously I've worked for a company called Susquehanna. It's like a hedge fund, but again, the head trader was a hardcore poker player. Gives nothing away in interview. So an interviewer that's not giving you any body language feedback, it does feel like you're talking to a wall, and a lot of people absolutely crack under that. And that's what it is. You go into poker mode and just give them nothing. Policeman. And just give them nothing. I think that's what it is.
There's a hell of a lot of truth to that. I think that it is one of the things that I've done a lot in my life is that I have applied the mentality I bring to a poker game to my job. Not necessarily in the way you're talking about in terms of putting on a poker face. I don't necessarily try to do that all the time, but absolutely trying to read people, trying to put them, when you're playing, I like to say when you're playing a hand of poker, you're telling a story, right? A poker hand is a beautiful motif for a story. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it's also a series of asking questions and looking for answers. And when you're playing a hand of poker, you're trying to tell a story. You're saying, I have this hand. But the minute you start joining into the hand, you're saying, I've got this hand. I'm telling you something about myself, but just by the actions I'm taking, by the chips that I'm betting, the amount that I'm betting, how long I took to put the chips in the pot, even which chips I chose to pick up, how I'm holding the chips. All these are telling a story. And what you're doing with that narrative is you're just continuing to build it up throughout the course of the hand. I think that same skill set when you're bringing to a business meeting is about, okay, especially when you're coming in cold, right? Which an interview, you're always coming in cold, right? Or you're coming in almost cold. All I know is what was put on the CV, or maybe there was a test or something that you answered ahead of time. But the reality is it's the same skill set, right? I'm still trying to read, making a really, really important decision, right? Which is, this is the thing that's kind of, when you're doing an interview, I think is something both parties should keep in mind is we're together making a very important decision. I'm making a decision. Should we as a company invest in you and make a commitment based on this 45 minutes that we're spending together that we should hire you, not just because of the inordinate amount of money that we paid you, which Fintan, it was a lot of money, probably. I don't recall, actually, but I'm sure it was a huge amount of money, right?
Sure,
but
yeah.
Let's
keep that myth going.
But not just because of that amount of money, right? It's also about, like, we're committing, more important to me, I'm putting my time, my effort, my thought process in investing in you as a person.
You
right?
did. Yeah.
And we sat next to each other for quite a bit of time. It was good times, I call that. But it's easy for people to say, oh, you can always fire them if they don't work out. But that's horrible, right? That's a sunk cost that you've just thrown away. And why do you want to do that? So it's a really important decision. And I think, so I've always approached it quite stringently of, like, I really want to get to know this person. So yeah, bring that, like, same as I'm buying into $1,000 poker tournament, I need to bring that same mentality into that poker tournament, right? It's a lot on the line here. It's not just the money I'm ponying up for the entry. It's the amount of time I'm going to spend at this table with you, and knowing who you are, and how I'm going to use that information in the future, and whether it's really worth getting to take that next step. So yeah, there's a lot of similarities there.
Fintan, I've never told you this, but you know what you're saying about the brick wall interviewer type?
Yeah, I'd say you're the opposite.
I've actually done that as an interviewee.
That I'm not surprised about.
And it's just when I was
just being interviewed
for Casino International, right? Paul Ryder, the publisher, was interviewing me, and Paul's a lovely guy, it had taken me like 6 hours or something to get there on the train. And I was quite tired and a little bit fraught. I had to go through London and all of this shit. And I was just like, I was not in my best place. And I get down there and we're sitting down, and I only found this out a couple of years later when he was like, do you know what you were like during your interview? And he's sitting there and he gave me the entire company history, the whole fucking thing.
Wow.
And I it's a chicken and egg situation. Did he start on the company history and then I shut down? Or did I shut down and then he thought, hey, I know what I'll do. I'll give him the entire company history. But apparently I gave him absolutely nothing. So miraculously, I got the job. Anyway,
well, at least he knew what he was in for, right? So you can't say it was a surprise afterwards.
I don't think he did know what he was in for, but then one of my referees gave him a bad reference, and luckily the bad reference was all the things that he wanted. True story, totally illegal, but one of my references did it anyway. What a penis! I had to thank him or chin him. Chris, this is a bit of an odd question, I guess, maybe, but sure. I've been thinking about poker, right? And the poker attracts, like, over the long term, it attracts a certain kind of player, maybe that don't even play anything else in a casino or online. And people are attracted to a lot of different facets of the game. It's obviously it's a very complex game, and the character that people bring to the table is a huge. No two games of poker are the same. No two hands of poker are the same. But where poker sits in gambling now, it's in a really funny place because poker kind of was a massive part in the online gambling expansion, in the regulated online gambling expansion. And it was like that first foot in the door for everything, really. And then there was that kind of sort of period where it fell away a little bit.
Lost a bit of its luster, maybe.
Yeah, whether it lost luster, but it's regulation caught up. People were attracted initially, but they're not the long-term player, all that kind of thing. But not just online. If you look at, and I'm thinking quite particularly, I'm probably really thinking North America, but if you look at, there are lots of cities in North America, lots of places where gambling is illegal, but poker rooms are thriving because they've got a workaround or whatever. And poker, it seems like a really resilient game. Now, I guess it's a two-handed question. Like, why does it have the resilience that it's had, both online and in the real world? But also, do you think that resilience that it's had online is down to the game's innate resilient characteristics, or do you think that's partly to do with the timing of the surge of poker? Does that make sense as a question?
Yeah, I think there's a couple pieces there's a couple things to unpack there. First, I want to take a little bit of an issue with something you made at the very beginning, right? You said it's quite complex. And I think actually part of the appeal of poker is that, and I think Mike Sexton used to say this all the time, it takes minutes to learn, but a lifetime to master. You can learn the basic rules of poker quite quickly, right? To learn the rules of how to play the game, whereas you try to play Settlers of Catan or something like that, for example, it's gonna take you a little bit longer to really understand them. And we all kind of know a little bit about poker no matter what, right? We all know what a deck of cards is, for example, and we probably have some indication of what the ordered rules of hands are, like what beats what. So, at some point in your life, you've probably played a game of poker or seen it played on TV or whatever. So I think that some of it is based to, there's a certain familiarity with it. That's part of the initial appeal. I think the reason initially it was so popular was, it's very different from any other vertical that we have in our industry, right? It's unlike sports betting or with a few exceptions, or unlike casino games or bingo. Fundamentally, the key to poker is it's a peer-to-peer game, right? As a company, PokerStars, the company I work for, has no stake in the game, right? We are there to facilitate it. It's the players playing against each other. So that was always the original that's the number one of the biggest differences is you're pitting your wits against other players, not against us as the house. So in terms of, what people think of as a casino game, that's already kind of violates one of those primary conventions. And then the other one is, and this is one that as a poker player, I've battled most of my life, which is it's a game of skill. Now, how much of a game of skill, is it really a game of skill, or is it completely luck based? Or does luck have a preponderance over skill or what have you? But that's a really critical aspect of it, right? It's actually, as it turns out, it's got the perfect blend, perfect mix of skill and luck. It's about 80% skill, about 20% luck. And yes, like all statistics that are good, I made those up out of my head. But the reality is, it's like, it has a beautiful mix of skill and luck. And that skill does have a majority of the impact on the game, right? Why do we know this? Because we know we can point to statistical evidence that proves over time there's a group of players that plays the game better than the mean or the average player does. And I think that's a really critical aspect of it, is that as a player, I can study, I can get good, and I can become a winning player. Or at least I can, whether I can make a living at it, or whether I can supplement my income, or whether I can just feel good about playing because I can say I've got a control over the outcome. If you play roulette, you've got no control over the outcome, right? Most of the games of a casino, you have no control over the outcome. And most of the time when you do have control, it's only to play it less badly, right? Like blackjack, no matter how good you play it, unless you're counting cards or a skilled mechanic or something like that, you are only just playing to a lesser percentage hold than overall. But with poker, if you're a skilled player and you are above the skill average in the room, you're going to win it over the long term. And I think that's a key aspect of why it became popular. First and foremost is that it was acceptable being a peer-to-peer game. It also hit a cultural zeitgeist at the time, right? Poker started showing up on TV. It started becoming, and characters started coming out of the woodworks, right? People like Patrick Antonius and Sam Farha and Chris Moneymaker. But even the unusual ones like Paul McGrill, who was an old chess player who became popular playing poker, for example. And that became a thing of like, oh, it's socially acceptable now. My parents, my own parents went from, I can't believe you're going to play poker again. I was like, when are you going to be on TV? We want to see you on TV. It's like now all of a sudden something to be proud of. So I think that's part of the appeal of poker was it was worth becoming good at something and that you could get good at something. I often say that people, when it comes to poker, how many people walk around saying I'm a slot machine player or even I'm a sports bettor? You have a few people who are professional sports bettors, but the majority of people say I like a bet. They don't call themselves a sports bettor. I'm a poker player. I've been a poker player almost my entire life, certainly all of my adult life. And it's part of how I identify as a person. It's like somebody lists off the things that I am. Being a poker player is one of them. And much like somebody who loves to go running says that they enjoy cross country running, or somebody likes cycling or does CrossFit or whatever, right? It's something that becomes part of your identity, becomes part of who you are. That doesn't exist with the other verticals, really. So I think that was part of that initial kind of poker was something that you could not just become attracted to, you could actually make it into something. You could turn it into something that you're really going to invest in.
It's a good point. I always had the joke that when poker players weren't playing poker, they were busy talking about poker. And it was a 24/7 cycle. So obviously there was things like 2+2 or poker news. And there was so much news and media around the product, which you don't get for slot games or sports betting in a way. Maybe a little bit more. But it does become this all-encompassing lifestyle for a lot of people that get into it. So so if we like, obviously there was a cultural zeitgeist, poker was on TV. The Chris Moneymaker effect is famous and was an amazing story of winning big money from an online poker satellite ticket. Where did it start? Like, what was the turning point where it was losing, like people started losing interest in it? Was it more technical? Did it become harder? Is it more about the grinders, tools? Like where was there one tipping point, or was it a series of, death by 1,000 cuts?
Well, I think if you look at online, it's very much death by 1,000 cuts, because if you look at live is bigger than it's ever been, right? If you look at live events, we're breaking records all the time. EPT Barcelona is going on as we're recording this, and records are being broken there. And the World Series that happened this past summer, records were broken there as well, right? So it's not like people are less inclined to play poker. It's much less accessible than it used to be, right? This is where, when we were talking about 20 years ago, when I joined PokerStars and when the poker boom happened, it was one global pool. We all played against each other. And creating an account, making a deposit, going through all those things, it was much simpler, right? There was only one platform to worry about. We didn't even have to worry about developing on mobile. We only had to do desktop development, and that was it, right? Desktop clients. Who has that now, right? So it was in many cases, a much simpler world, right? Now, as for online poker, as regulation has come up, which is needed, right? Regulation is there to make sure games are safe. And the industry's had its own issues with operators that didn't play by the rules and did things in a poor manner. And the ones that have survived and stood the test of time, like PokerStars, are the ones that took up every available license and made sure that, game integrity was top notch, and that the software development was at the top of the game, and that every regulation was adhered to. The problem is, though, that a lot of those regulations by decree said that player pools had to be segregated. Italy was the first to do this, but it's happened in Southern Europe. The individual U.S. states are doing the same thing, and other countries have started to follow that path as well. Even in Canada, you have Ontario as a province has now segregated their player pool, and poker is built on liquidity. Poker is built on there's a game available when you want to play. That's the challenge with poker. It is a peer-to-peer game, right? It's a wonderful thing about it, but it's the challenge. We need a bunch of like-minded people who all want to play at the same time. The great thing about online poker is we don't have to travel to do it. We can just connect and do it. But you still want the game to be there when you want to play. And And as we start to balkanize, I call it, to break off our liquidities into smaller liquidities, that's the challenges we face, right? Is like, how do you make that story as compelling when it can be harder? It can be, especially if you are, in some cases, you live in a location where online poker isn't available to you where it used to be. Then what do you do, right? And that's where you see that challenge of that online has. It's a little bit different than live, I think. Live poker, like I said, very much alive and well and doing really, really well.
Interesting.
I think also, sorry, I just wanted to touch a little bit on that kind of popularism of thing. I think the other thing is that it's just like, that part of where it was a part of the cultural zeitgeist, that time has passed, as these things do. It's a tribute to, going back to John's question, it's a tribute to what I call it a beautiful game. Why is it a beautiful game? It's because it stood that test of time, that even when it falls out of favor, there's still this core of people that carry on playing it. We carry on studying it. We care about talking about it. We come up with new variations, new ideas on how to play the game. That's why it stands the test of time. It's still a great game. It's the simplicity that leads to complexity that makes it amazing, which sounds contradictory, I know, but it is so deeply complex, even though it is simple on its face.
Yeah. So it makes, I agree. I think it's like a lot of old games. It's been refined over time, and it is the way it is for a very good reason. And I also agree with it as a teaching tool. It's a great way to learn how the world works to play poker, or how the stock market works, or how trading works, or how there's so much there that's transferable to other things. And I think when we've had a lot of successful entrepreneurial guests on, and so many of them started out with online poker and then went off and did other great things. Either they started as an affiliate, or they were staying up all night, taking money from drunk Americans while based in some other time zone, or whatever it was. That's how they paid for college and stuff. We've had so many of those stories come through. And I think so much of the gambling industry, the senior people in the industry, owe their careers to poker in one form or another, which is, you don't hear that about slots. So it's definitely a different thing. What about, and there's always been like a bot problem with poker. People trying to use, either HUDs to track people, or bots to play perfect poker, and those kind of things. Has that had?
Hang on. What's a HUD?
Heads up displays.
Heads up display. Yeah.
So it tracks the player, maybe hand history, depending on the tool. Like Chris will know more about, depending on the tool, maybe the hand histories, or.
So it's like if you played a video game and you're playing like Call of Duty or whatever, you're going to see things on your screen around you, right? That say, oh, your enemies are over there. And that's a heads up display. It's basically information on your screen about your opponents, telling you what they might do or what they are doing, right? And for poker, it's the hands that they've played, the hands that you've seen them play. How many times did they raise? How many times did they 3-bet? Did they see the flop? Some basic statistics. Which is, and these are allowed explicitly by the rules of the site. So by PokerStars, and many sites actually are building it into the software now. They don't. A lot of times people were installing third-party tools to do this, but a lot of sites now are actually building it into the software itself. And it's an interesting thing. It's evolved over the years, Fintan. I think that's the correct answer about like the bot issue is it used to be that was, as is often the case, right? That the bots, the people trying to do nefarious things, turns out they actually weren't very good. In fact, in many cases, they were losing money. And we even had players said, hey, don't bother banning that bot. I win a lot of money against them. Once I can identify it's that bot, they play predictably. I know exactly what they're going to do. So then in some cases, people were actually fine to play against bots. But the reality is, like, yeah, with obviously I'm sure you've had guests on your show about topics around AI and generative AI. And as it turns out, poker was actually one of the main training grounds for a lot of AI, or to prove that AI was somewhat sentient, right? Because poker was considered a game of significant enough complexity that it would help kind of be its own Turing test, right? It could be its own, like if a bot could play poker as good as a human, that was a proof of AI. And so we saw, people like Darce Billings, for example, who was working out of Carnegie Mellon University doing some of the original AI stuff, was actually part of the poker group I was a part of back in the late 90s, early 90s. That was how they were training their AI models. And so today AI is widely available. And of course, as you can imagine, the tools for people to use on online poker, those tools are available as well, right? And they're no longer as expensive as they used to be, and they're no longer as, probably more important, as time consuming as they used to be. So as always, it's something that as an operator, it keeps you on your toes. We have a team of over 50 individuals around the world, most of whom are either former poker professionals or play poker today. They're very good poker players. They're the best poker players in the company. They're people I don't want at my own game. We continue to improve our tools, our detection methods. We look for things like perfect play. We look for things that are essentially what we call superhuman levels of play and can prove that these are decisions, because there's a lot of things that are being recommended by an AI or that a bot would do are not something that a human would do. They're counterintuitive plays, and they're very sophisticated and nuanced plays. And we look for those patterns over time. We can look at representative population data. We can look at degrees of improvement, how much players have improved against where they used to be. If a player
that's smart.
a week ago all of a sudden was this bad, and all of a sudden become this good, that's definitely not. So there's a number of different markers you can look for and things like that. And even some of these guys like that do offer this as a service, they actually work with us and let us know when somebody's, we can actually get information like somebody's actually tried to, it's called solving, right? So when you're looking at a poker hand in terms of AI, it's has this hand been solved? And what does that mean? It means like to be solved, it means a hand is being played at an unexploitable level. Right. So it means that from a game theory optimal perspective, you've played your hand of poker in such a way that you've never shown weakness at any point, that you're balanced in exactly what you're doing, the size of your raise, the frequency of your plays, and so on. Right. And that's what it means to be, using an assist or using GTO level play. And so in these cases, when we, a lot of times those plays that are game theory optimal, they're not obvious plays. So when we see somebody continually making these non-obvious plays, and doing it in places where it just doesn't make sense for them to do it, we can often call that out as somebody who's using assistance. And that, to be honest, that's what we get paid to do, right? As an operator, why do people play online with us as opposed to playing with an unlicensed operator or somebody using a private app or what have you? And it's because they know we're going to run a fair game, that we're putting the resources and the time and the development effort into making sure that we're running the safest game possible. That's why, the company that I work for, PokerStars, is the company that's considered the leader in terms of player protection in that regard.
And I suppose it is that, like, it's the classic poker scenario. If you sit down at a table, all you ask for is a fair game, right? That goes back to the Cowboys kind of thing, right? That is the thing. So where do you see poker evolving to over the next few years? Is it like faster games, quicker, outcomes, getting, where do you feel it's evolving to?
The one thing that surprised me recently was the popularity of the format Mystery Bounty, which is something that, so Mystery Bounty tournament is where a portion of the prize pool, so a portion of the entry fee is set aside and carved up into chunks of money, and that at random, after a certain point of the tournament, at random, when somebody gets busted out, if you're the person who busted them out, you can draw an envelope and you win a prize comes from that bounty pool. So this is kind of the exact opposite of what we've been talking about, of poker being a game of skill. We just introduced this massive element of luck. And in some cases, those mystery bounties are significant chunks of money, right? They've been up to $1 million. In fact, they've been,
really?
6-figure amounts, very regular, 5-figure amounts, very regular. And I was, to be honest, I'm not, first of all, I'm going to be very clear on this. I'm not a fan of the format. And it's one of those things that actually came up, in my view, it became a thing because live poker couldn't replicate something that had become really, really popular online, which was progressive knockouts. This is where A normal bounty tournament is, 25% of the prize pool goes on my head, and Fintan, when you knock me out, you get that money, right? It's just like a little extra added thing for knocking me out. Well, progressive, we did was we said, okay, you get half of that amount, and the other half we're going to put on your own head, and we'll keep track of that throughout the tournament. And your bounty, as you keep knocking people out, your own bounty will get bigger and bigger and bigger. Well, this was an innovation we came up with some 10 years ago, and it's taken over online poker by storm. And probably half the tournaments that are played online are progressive knockouts. It was one of those features you couldn't do live because how do you keep track of it? They tried to replicate it live without putting an iPad at every single table. It just wasn't going to happen. And so, there are a few of them run, but then somebody came up with this idea of mystery bounty. So great. You've got it live. That's the kind of the version. But all of a sudden it started being playing online now as well. Everybody wants it online. And why is that? I think it goes back to, why do people play poker to begin with, right? It is because I get a chance to exercise my skill and I can still win a big chunk of money, right? So it is still about, like, ultimately at the end of the day, why do people play poker? Well, a big chunk of it is I want to win a nice chunk of money. And to know that I can do that without winning the tournament, that all I got to do is at the right moment in time, knock somebody out. That's a lot easier than winning a whole tournament, right? And so I think to me, for online poker to grow and to continue to succeed, it's going to be incorporating features like this. It's maybe not being as stuffy as we used to be, as purist as we used to be about poker can only be this thing. Poker can be whatever we want it to be. I used to have this argument. I don't know if you remember a former colleague of ours, Lee Jones. I used to have this argument with Lee Jones all the time, very well known in the poker industry. He's written books about poker, worked for a number of different poker companies. And it was, what is a game of poker? What is, when I say poker, what do you think of, right? And you think of, well, it's a deck. It's got 52 cards, and, a flush beats a straight and a full house beats a flush and all this stuff. Actually, but that's not true, because there are forms of poker where you don't use 52 decks of cards. Maybe you use a deck of 36 cards, or sometimes actually a trips beat a flush if you're playing short deck poker, or if you're playing Badoogie, it's the worst possible hand wins, not the best possible hand. So poker really has nothing to do with anything other than it's a peer-to-peer game. It's me against you. It's that's the core of it, is my brains against your brains. And it's an ordered set of rules. We have to agree on what beats what. And there has to be something of value at stake, right? And because it has to be meaningful. And that thing of value doesn't have to be money, right? The thing of value could be pride. It could be the fact that you're called the champion, the fact that you've got, you get kudos from your peers, right? That's what matters. When we play for play money in poker, nobody cares because there's nothing meaningful. There's nothing meaningful at stake. So it doesn't matter. So for poker to grow, those things have to be true, right? It has to be a battle of wits. It has to be an ordered set of rules. There has to be something meaningful at stake. But I do think we have to move with the times. We have to get faster. We have to introduce more elements that allow people to experience those moments where they could win something big. And I think, we also just have to continue to adapt to the other technologies that are going on. When we were part of the zeitgeist, it was because this was early 2000s. There wasn't much in the way of TV. We didn't have, all the different streaming options, all the different ways. It was like, if it was on TV, people watched it, right? If you're in the UK, you're watching late night poker. If you're in the US, you're watching WPT on TV.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or WSOP on ESPN, right?
Pre-iPhone, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or like very early iPhone.
We didn't have a mobile client at PokerStars till 2010, right? So the company was started in 2001. That's a long period of existence without any mobile at all. So today it's things like Twitch, like YouTube, streaming now, instead of necessarily putting it on broadcast television. It's combining with other industries, whether it's F1, whether it's UFC, doing these partnerships that, bring it back into culture and bring it back and make it continue to make it relevant. And some of that is going to be, how do we turn it from this game of incredible patience where it takes, the WSOP main event took 2.5 weeks to come from start to finish. That's just not really going to be practical to grow that much more. How do we help collapse it? How do we move things along quicker? And I think that's what needs to be done to really kind of keep moving poker forward into the future. Keep adapting to technology and keep working it into trends while still staying true to what it is at its heart, which is like I said, it's that game of wits.
Yeah. What about obviously the other kind of ecosystem challenge for poker has always been the sharks versus the fish. So it'd be like you inviting me to your home game.
Yeah.
Is inviting the fish.
You have a standing invite, by the way, anytime you like. I will pay for your flight to the Isle of Man, in fact.
I know. I just send you the money. It'd be quicker.
Yeah, exactly.
Just,
well, you can do that
it's way more efficient. So there's always that, like, there's the recreational players who come in, they've got a couple of dollars, they want a bit of fun, they want to stretch that money, have a bunch of games. And then there's the far more sophisticated players who are just way more skillful. So there is a skill imbalance.
Yeah.
Is there anything to help balance that out, or that's just the nature of the game?
It's actually happening already, right? So we have formats like Spin and Go, which Spin and Go is something that is, again, uniquely online. And it was actually born out of another format that was almost uniquely online called Sit and Go, right? So Sit and Go was, once we have 9 people, we're all going to sit down at a table and we're going to play single table until one person's the winner and they're going to get all the money. That's part of it. They used to have those live. They were just never very popular because how long are you going to get 9 like-minded people who are going to all wait around until all 9 people are there and they're going to sit down and then they're going to play? It almost never happened, right? But online, it was a lot easier, and they were actually very, very popular. And by the way, it was a lot easier to program. So we did those at the very beginning of online poker. But then somebody came up with the idea of Spin and Go. And the idea of Spin and Go is there's only 3 players. And it's a really fast structure. We don't even start you with that many blinds. You only get like 20 big blinds, 25 big blinds to start. And the levels go up really, really quickly. So you're going to be done in about 10, 15 minutes. And oh, by the way, we're going to add a randomizer at the very beginning of the game where if you all chuck in a tenner, great. But instead of $30 going to the person who wins, we're going to randomize that. And sometimes it's going to be $20, but sometimes it's going to be 100,000 or $1 million. Right? Now, it's not going to happen very often. It's going to happen once every 10 million tournaments, but it does happen. In fact, we had one happen on PokerStars just 2 days ago. So it was $1 million for first.
The sweating you sit there, you put your tenner in. There's like how much up for grabs?
Yeah, exactly.
My God, the heart must be pounding.
But guess what else?
Life-changing.
It turns out it's also the best game possible for a new player to play. Why is that? Well, the number one mistake that new players make, they play far too many hands. They don't have any patience, right? The number 2 mistake that players make is when they play their hands, they play them badly. And that is by playing them badly, they bet when they shouldn't bet, or when they do bet, they bet the wrong size. But Spin and Go solves a lot of that because it's 3-handed, you actually should be playing more hands than normal. So you actually, if you're playing more hands than you should, it's actually okay. You're not making that egregious of a mistake. And because we don't give you that many chips to start with, it's kind of hard for you to make a lot of betting mistakes either. So the edges for the professional players, the edges for the good players over the recreational players are much, much, much smaller. So as a beginning player, you have a much better chance. Because remember, if everything was equal, if there's 3 players, you should win 1 out of 3 times. Well, if you have somebody really, really good at this game and somebody who's really, really bad at this game, the really, really good player is probably going to win 40% of the time, and the really, really bad player is going to win 30% of the time. Right? So you've actually really not lost a whole lot by doing that. You will over time, but if you want to have a winning, and you have a very good chance of having a winning experience. So formats like that are what I see as kind of the future.
And then it's good because then you're getting the turnover, you're getting your win rates better than it would be.
Yeah.
Your money's going further. So your utility per dollar spent is actually, you feel like you're getting value for money, and it's a bit of fun.
Because what does a recreational player really want? They just want to have a fun experience, right? And they want to have that heart pounding moment. They want to have that moment of like, there's that first moment of when the spinner comes up, it's like, is it going to be big? So you already have that first initial kind of exciting moment. And then if it is bigger than normal, let's say it's not even $30, let's say it's $50, right? That's still bigger than normal. And if you only have to beat 2 players to win 5-1 on your money, you're pretty happy with that. And it's 10 minutes. That's what you want, right? You want 10, 12 minutes, and you start to end, you're done. So the recreational player gets what they want, and the professional player they don't care about that one game. They care about, and I'm going to tell you this, some of these guys are playing 10,000 games a month. Yeah.
Wow. But then it's a job, right? That's
for those guys, they approach it very, very differently. And just like you said, right? They're spending 4 hours a day playing. They're also spending probably 2 hours a day studying. They're probably spending another 2 hours a day, doing mindfulness and working out. Like these people are like inordinately healthy. It's like as an old school poker player who's not fit in any sense of the word, it's a little bit perturbing to me, right? I'm not that guy, but I get the mindset. They're driven. They know exactly what they want out of it.
Very often when you see a mindset shift like that, there is a reason for it. So like if you look at golfers pre-Tiger Woods and golfers that turn pro post-Tiger Woods, they're very different animals. Obviously there are a few exceptions, but not many. Like golfers they're in shape, they're strong now, So yeah, was there a tipping point that which poker players became healthy?
Yeah, I think absolutely. And that tipping point was when I mean, if you look at those beginning, you can actually watch back some of those early episodes of whether it's our show, the EPT show, or the WSOP or whatever. And you would see like people like the talk was about drinking challenges or playing beer pong or something like that, right? And then all of a sudden, you saw people, and I'll give you like Daniel Negreanu was one of those people where he talked about being vegan and eating healthy, but it became a big thing that a lot of the most popular players talked about their regimen and about their mindset and about like people even having sports psychologists to help them in terms of playing poker and keeping an even kill. Don't go on tilt and keep your mindset right. And it was basically like anything else, like you said, Tiger Woods. Well, it's the leading poker players at the time. Patrick Antonius is another one, right? The man literally looks like a Greek god. Like he's just like, you've never seen a more fit individual in your life. And they showed the other players, the aspiring poker players, and of course they want to emulate those players, and they're doing it through not just how they played poker, but how they treated the rest of their lives. You also saw this advent of poker coaching sites started to pop up. I would say in the early 2010s, it really started to become popular, where a number of coaching sites, where it was not just about teaching you how to play poker well, but teaching you all these other things about eating well, eating healthy. I remember I had a friend of mine who said, I kept saying like, every time I go to play poker, and I go on a poker trip, I'm fine for the first day or so. And then I start getting sick. And he's like, yeah, think about it. A poker room is like a petri dish, right? It's just filled with germs, and you're passing around these clay chips that are going from hand to hand. And think about how often you unconsciously touch your mouth while you're playing. And by the way, try not to touch your mouth when you're at a casino playing with you. You're going to do it. And then realize, oh my God, I've just put to my mouth the germs and microbes from every person in this casino, right?
They've all been scratching their balls.
Exactly. Well, scratching something anyway. So yeah, it's pretty disgusting when you think about it. One of his tips was every time you have a break, on that break, go wash your hands. I suddenly started getting, wow. So I think being healthy and thinking, and when I approach a tournament, I approach tournaments. I know that if I'm, because yes, I'm that guy. It is my job that I work on poker. It's also that I love poker. So when I go on holiday, what do I go on holiday to do? I go play poker. And when I go to something like the Irish Open, which I play every year, I'm there for like, week to 10 days. I approach it with like, what am I going to wear? What am I going to eat? It doesn't mean I'm not going to have fun and I'm not going to have a couple nights out drinking or every night out drinking. That might happen. But when I'm playing, I'm taking it seriously. I'm dressed like one of the keys, like playing live, like dress in layers, because poker rooms have a completely unpredictable environment. You don't know how warm it's going to be, how cold it's going to be. And the other thing is like at the very beginning, the room is full. Everybody's around you. It's quite warm. As people start busting out and the room gets emptier and the night gets later, it gets colder. So like, yeah, dress like one of my number one tips is like dress in layers, because it's going to benefit you as the day goes on, assuming you last them.
It's not a problem. I'm
yeah, you can just show up in shorts
flip flops,
shorts and a t-shirt. Yeah, you're fine, Vin.
Fine, goodness, let's go. I love it. What else? How did you get into poker? Like, what was your family game, or
yeah? So in the States, I would say it is. People talk about baseball being the national pastime in the States, but I would say actually it's poker. I think every person I know in the States, when you grow up, you've grown up around poker in one way or another. And for me, it was I remember my sneaking downstairs, and my father had his friends over, and they're all around the table. Back in those days, they were smoking cigarettes, overflowing ashtrays. And they're playing poker, and the sound of chips and the laughter. And I was just drawn to it. I remember sneaking down, looking down from the top of the stairs so I could peek in and see what was going on. I was fascinated by it. So at a very early age, I think it was probably 7 years old, my grandfather taught me how to play using matchsticks and we wound up playing at family gatherings for some time, just again for fun. So didn't really count. There was nothing of value at stake, but I think most American, you still had that bragging rights, right? Which, by the way, bragging rights can also be incredibly valuable, right?
For sure. And it's like the family fights that break out over Monopoly or something like that, right? So it's a high risk, high status game. And then you've obviously been with PokerStars for a very long time, and you were very early to PokerStars, like first couple of hundred.
41, I think.
41, there we go, right? So like super early days. What was it like back then?
So it's funny because everybody goes, oh, it must have been amazing. The poker boom was happening. Everything was so easy back then. I don't recall it being easy at all. I remember there being a ton of competition. I remember Isai, our founder, being incredibly driven and so intelligent that it was very difficult you certainly were never getting one over on him. It was very much a startup. I mean, it was, and as startups go, it's like everybody does everything. I mean, I got hired in April 2004. I didn't know what my job actually was supposed to be. I got told, okay, here, we need something for you to do. Why don't you call up Chris Moneymaker and interview him and build his website? So that was the first job I had at PokerStars, was building chrismoneymaker.com, the website. And chatting with Chris and hearing his life story, which I'm sure by now he's sick of telling, but in those days it was still relatively new to him. He won in 2003. So, he was still probably happy to tell the story. But yeah, everybody did everything. I somehow wound up being in charge of affiliates, even though I knew nothing about the affiliate world.
Probably for the best.
I am told at one point I was called the most hated man in the affiliate industry because I wouldn't pay anybody rev share. I would only do CPA, and nobody liked that. And of course, we changed from that later on. But back in those days, it was probably a smart move. But yeah, I think it's like, it was just whatever need. If I needed to fly to Vegas and buy people into a tournament, I did that. Like it's just literally whatever needed doing, you did.
Wow.
It was
That's
fun.
amazing.
It was fun.
That is for that startup environment is so much fun.
I've done it a few times in my life. I wouldn't do it again at my current age, but I do recommend anybody, like at some point in your life, join a startup or start a startup, even better, and learn what it's like to have to do everything in the company. Because I think that's what's great about a startup, is that if you have a good one, everybody is just you're like, the hours don't matter. It's just titles don't matter. You just, everybody is, you're all trying to do one thing, and that's just to make this thing work. And, really fortunate enough to have been part of a company that lasted this long, right? If you look at the companies that started 20 years ago in the poker industry, there aren't that many left, right? And
if you go through the net, like Pacific Poker and like these types of brands that were the brand at the time, like there was definitely a war of attrition.
Golden Tiger,
sure.
Remember Golden Tiger? They were the ones that they bought the toast that had the picture of the Mona Lisa on it or something like that, right?
What's crazy about Golden Tiger is when you look at PR for the gambling industry, it's still Golden Tiger is guaranteed like top 3 on any list or any reference material, or
just because they've got all the long tail
toast. There's just not a lot of interesting PR in the industry. And Golden Tiger were one of the few, like they were paying people to get like tattoos.
Oh yeah, there was a boxer that had his entire back tattoo. There was somebody who named their child legally GoldenTiger.com.
That's right. There was tons of these things. I'd love to meet that person. It actually shows you how easy it is. So I learned so much about business and poker sitting beside you for so long, but now you're on Twitch, so you're sharing your wisdom with a bigger audience. Yeah. I was lucky enough to sit beside you for a long time and learn a lot, but you're now sharing it with a wider audience. How was that?
Yeah, it kind of came around. Again, PokerStars has gone through a few iterations over the years, right? Went from a private poker only company to doing multi verticals to becoming public in a reverse merger to acquiring Skybet to being acquired by Flutter, and through all of that, through all the different changes, right? One of the things that we had was always a great relationship with the poker community, and we were part of the poker community. We lived in the poker community. And it's become more of a challenge because that community, you mentioned 2+2, that used to be where the poker community lived, right? It's much more disparate these days, right? It's much more spread out. And one of the things that we realized was that we maybe were losing a little bit of our voice. I mentioned Lee Jones. He used to kind of do text commentary on our Sunday Million final tables and make up little puns about people's names and stuff. And that all went by. And so I was chatting with a few people in the office, and it was like, well, how do we start to humanize? How do we kind of recreate those relationships with our brands? We've got it with our ambassadors, but I wanted to do it on a more personal level. And I was quite active in our Discord, which has been around for I think about 4 or 5 years. I was quite active on our Discord, chatting with a lot of players, and I thought, well, how can we bring this to a larger audience? And Nick Walsh, who's one of our team pros, is a friend of mine, and does commentary for us as well as play. And we were batting around a few ideas, and we kind of came up with the old, there used to be Sky Poker used to have, on because it was part of Sky, they were on TV.
Did a TV channel, yeah.
And they had a TV channel, right? And on the TV channel they would put up a table from one of their games, and there was a guy who would just commentate over top of it. And it was, if you played on Sky Poker in those days, getting on that table was like a cool thing, right? It's like I could be on TV and be commentated on. So it's kind of a modern day version of that. It's essentially, it's a $5 tournament that we put in our client every Thursday when Nick and I are both available, which is probably 1 out of every 3 Thursdays. And it's open for the first 500 people who register. We add a bunch of value added prizes, and then we broadcast it on Twitch, cards up with commentary by Nick and I. And at the same time, Nick and I chat about things much like we're doing here and tell stories, and people can ask me questions about, like, why does PokerStars do this? Or how did you guys come up with that? But we also follow the play, and people get to see the hands they were up against 10 minutes ago, and they get to tell the rest of chat what they're thinking. And it's just a lot of fun. It's just kind of a way to humanize the brand, a way to connect with that audience that I feel is one of the most important things around poker. Is that poker, we say that poker is, it's me against you, right? But it's also a great shared social experience, right? You sit down at a poker table, anywhere in the world. If I go to Austria or I go to Sweden, I sit down at a poker table, we're all speaking the same language, right? We're all speaking the language of poker. And I've met some amazing people at a poker table, and I've had some incredible conversations, incredible experiences, made lifelong friends. And I love the game, and I want to bring that to more people. And I think this is just a way to do that. So that's Brilliant. Where it came from. It came from a place of just wanting to share and show people just how much that poker is. Yes, it can be a business. It can be about earning the most money you can, but it's also something amazing and beautiful, and something about that just, it can be just great to sit down and talk with people.
I love it. Brilliant.
When you meet people, right? Do you kind of does your inner poker player assess them as potential poker opponents? If so, how have me and Fintan fared today?
I was going to say,
he would love to play poker.
I feel like I'm being
us.
set up here, and there it was. So, until you said that, probably I would have said no, and then you said that, and I went, actually, I have been, and I'll say, like, my read on so yes, I've sized. I wouldn't say necessarily in the guise of a poker player, but I would say if I was playing poker against you, here's how I would size Fintan up. I think Fintan is going to be a little bit loosey goosey. He's going to play too many hands. He's going to be great fun to play with, and I want to keep him happy because I can tell that he's the kind of player that the happier I keep him, the longer he'll stay at the player table, and he's got not a chance of winning.
It's perfect. That's
right?
Exactly what it is.
And of course I know Fintan as well, so like it's a little bit easier. Then you, Jon. So Jon, we've never met before, right? And you strike me as quiet, observing, so somebody I should probably keep a keen eye on. But from the words you have said, you don't strike me as somebody who knows a whole lot about poker. So I'm probably going to have to babysit you just a little bit more if I want you to stay at the table. And I need to learn how to draw you out because you're not being as forthcoming as Fintan is.
Just get him talking about horror movies. That's the
well,
trigger.
and this is the amazing thing about poker, right? Because this is exactly what I would do. Is I would say, what is it you do for a living, Jon? Tell me about yourself. And I would do that at the poker table. And some of it is because I am genuinely curious and I like to hear about other people. But some of it is like just from the minute you tell me what you do for a living, that's going to tell me something about your mindset, right? If you were to say that.
But hang on though, Chris. If somebody said that to me at a poker table, I would just start fucking with them. I'd be there, I'd just be going, I'm a professional fister.
I want to know what your qualifications were.
Small hands.
What exactly do you no. But the thing is, like, you got nowhere to hide. You're stuck at a poker table with me, Jon, and we're going to be there for hours. You cannot keep that up for long. I've tried it, by the way. I did exactly that. I was in Las Vegas and I thought, I'm going to have a bit of fun. I've been having a few drinks. I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to have a shot of tequila because tequila really stinks and people will smell it when I breathe out. And I'm going to bring all these big chips over to the poker table with me because that's a thing a poker player never does. When a poker player comes to play poker, they bring a rack of small denomination chips that are appropriate for the table. I'm like, I'm going to bring over some 100s and 25s and I'm going to spill them out all over the table. Like I did the whole act. Right. And within 3 hands, I couldn't help myself. I started shuffling the chips.
Oh,
I got them right next to me because I got them right next to me. I got them right next to me. I keep a stack of chips right next to me at my table. And I started shuffling the chips. And right away, everybody knew, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. You don't know how to shuffle chips if you know nothing about poker. So I don't think you could keep it up, Jon. That's what I'm saying.
Well, maybe one day we'll find out.
Oh, I'd love to. You can catch a flight. You can catch that flight with Fintan.
We'll get the ferry. Party ferry.
I did see there was a service. It's kind of like an Uber for flights. And Isle of Man, I can't remember for the life of me what it's called. It's a few years ago. It's pre-COVID, so it's probably fucking gone bust by now. They're not private jets, you cock. For normal people, not people that go to Monaco to have a fucking scone with a friend. Just in case you missed that episode, Chris, Fintan did that.
Sounds like something you do.
But people with like aircraft and or people have access to a small airfield. If somebody's going that way, you can basically find a lift kind of thing. It's a really good idea.
That is a great idea. It's kind of like those jet share things that Warren Buffett has, right? That kind of concept. Yeah, there's a fairly large private plane airfield and hangar here, so it wouldn't surprise me.
But there's a little one just down the road from me. So do you know what I'm saying? I'm saying that maybe there's a game waiting to happen. I have played some poker, I've got to be honest.
Well, just let me know. And
I've played some local games. And basically, I'm known as the bloke that turns up and just gives them £10. But the thing is, I do it. Like if you go into a casino and you gamble, if you go into it with probably the sanest mindset, you're going in there and thinking, how much am I going to be okay with losing tonight?
Yeah.
What am I going to get for my money? How much fun can I have on this amount of money?
It's entertainment value.
And that's how I look at playing poker locally. Because when I first moved here, I really didn't know anybody. Somebody asked me if I wanted to go and play, and I'm like, fuck yeah. and that's how I met a few people locally. It was really nice.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That shared social experience. It's a great way to meet people. And when I used to travel a lot for business when I was in the States. I worked in the computer industry for 15 years and traveled all over the U.S. and I hated every minute of it. But I did enjoy when I'd go to a city, I'd look up the local poker room and sit down there and just meet people. We met some absolute characters, and it was great fun. Played in some wild places as well.
Where are you from?
Originally from California. Originally from Southern California.
Okay. So I totally 100% could not place your accent.
It's been a bit bastardized by living here, and I've lived all over the world for most of my life anyway. And it was 2 years in Tokyo, 2 years in Taiwan when I was very young, and then been over here for the last 20 years, or near enough 20 years. And I get Irish a lot, I get
Fintan.
Canadian a lot, but yeah.
It was like a sentence for him. Poor guy.
The more Jamesons I have, the more Irish I get.
Yeah,
Chris was very patient with me, so it was brilliant.
You were good fun. I was sorry when you left. When you left. We had a bit of fun in our little corner of the office there.
We did. Chris would just give me random projects. He'd look at me one day and you could see he was plotting. He's like, Fintan, I think you should take care of this. And he'd just like slide something completely random across my desk. I had nothing to do anyway, so it was fine. It was all good.
That's a wonderful paying job as well.
Yeah, it was.
Some people get all the luck.
I know.
Chris, do you this is probably going to sound like an odd question, but I've got to ask it because if you spent a lot of time playing poker, do you have a preferred deck? Is there a preferred manufacturer or a preferred material for your playing cards?
That's a great question, actually, because here's a fun fact. There are two types of kind of quote sizes in playing cards, and I'm gonna kind of reveal something about myself here now. I collect playing cards. I have thousands of decks of playing cards, right? Which is rather silly, and my wife kind of wonders when she's ever going to get her half of the spare room back, but. So first and foremost, when you're playing in a casino, if you notice when you're playing blackjack, those are going to be what's called plastic coated cards, right? They're used and abused and thrown away, right? That's your very typical card that you'll see in a casino. And then in poker, they have what's called poker sized cards, and they're thinner and they're made of 100% plastic because they're meant to be used. In fact, you'll even wash them. The casinos will actually even wash those cards. So first and foremost, 100% plastic is the number one thing. But here's the funny part. They have two sides of the indexes. That's the corners of the cards that when you're looking at your hand, you're looking at the corners. When I first started playing, we used what are called poker size indexes, which are very small and very skinny because you don't want to have to spread too much of the cards out to be able to see them. Well, guess what? Nobody in the world uses those to play poker with anymore. We all use what's called bridge indexes, which have the much bigger size cards because basically most people can't see them well enough and you make mistakes. So you'd rather have the large.
Is that because the players
indexes.
are getting older?
I think it was started from old players, but and then everybody kind of went, that's a great idea. So my preference would be 100% plastic, bridge index, ideally made by Chem, which doesn't make playing cards anymore, but Chem used to be the number one manufacturer of 100% plastic cards. They got bought by the U.S. playing card company many years ago, and the brand still exists, but they were very, very thin. I loved how thin they were. They were just like they were like picking up two pieces of butterfly wings. But the other thing is that in order to be a good deck of playing cards as well, right? They need to be as unobtrusive as possible. So nothing fancy with them. They can't have. You don't want decks of playing cards with a fancy back on them because that's what gets marked up, and then people can see what the next card to come is if they've got a mark on the back of the card. So something that's as plain as possible. Nothing fancy.
Have you ever been to the city of cards in Spain, Vitoria, where Fournier is located?
I have not. We do a lot of business with Fournier, and I own a lot of decks of cards by Fournier. In fact, I have right here this was actually given to me, and well, you can see that. This was actually given to me as a 20th anniversary gift for those maybe listening and not watching video. It's a deck of cards with my nickname, Strag. Everybody calls me Strag, with my nickname on it, and it says 20 years on it. And these were produced by Fournier. That was a gift from my colleagues. That's very nice. Cool. They actually have my face on them as well. So I'm not going to show you that.
I love Fournier. I mean, years ago it was run by Jesus Guerra, and Jesus is retired, and I think Javier Berasategui is now running the joint, and Javier is like a god to me. And I went on a factory tour with Jesus and Javier, and I love those two. They're like, so Jesus I loved because as a Spaniard so Vitoria is right in the middle of Basque country.
Right.
So, it's a Spanish dialect. It's a fiercely proud and independent area. It's unbelievably beautiful. It's also where they have an Ironman every summer, July the 15th next year.
Something I would never do.
And when Jesus was a young man and he wanted to learn English, he did what most people did at that time, came over to the UK. In order to learn English, he went to Glasgow.
But he said he wanted to learn English.
Exactly. And he said to me really proudly, he said, I never got one Glasgow kiss. Like, well, that's good. And he had me explain to Javier Coronation Street. It's just like, nobody believes me. That must have been an interesting conversation. It's fabulous. But I did the factory tour with those guys. I've done the factory tour a couple of times because I actually really enjoy it. But they have a room. And so before we go in this room, they're like, right, we've got to be a little bit quiet now. And so we go into this room and the room is completely silent. It's full of people. It's full of little old ladies. And they are checking the printed card sheets for imperfections in the design. And so no matter how good optical character recognition is, they know that these women are better. It's a wonderful thing to see. It's really lovely. Yeah, big fan of Fournier.
It's an amazing world, the world of playing cards and what goes into them and the story that goes behind them, which is one of the reasons I'm a collector of them. And I'm collecting most
different games and different cards as well. I mean, if I remember right, Baccarat, the way that it's dealt in Asia, it's a paper card and it's single use. Yep. Single use deck.
They literally, if you play Baccarat, especially if you play high stakes, pretty much anywhere in the world, you are allowed to tear the cards. It's completely allowed. And of course,
they're very straight in the bin.
That's right. When they're done, they go through one shoe of however many decks, 12 decks or whatever it is. It's a huge amount of decks as well, right? When they're done, they're done. That's it. They throw those cards away. They destroy them. You typically drill a hole through the middle of them or whatever. But yeah, as a player, it's one of the few cards you're allowed to bend them, tear them. They don't care because they're never going to be used again.
Next time I'm in a casino, I'm ripping up the Baccarat cards.
Don't do that if you're at the €5 table there, Fintan. You're going to be playing a little bit higher than that before they're going to be willing to.
But Chris,
those tables are reusing the cards.
Getting tasered.
I'm going to go to the Fournier factory. I'm going to say, I'd see if I can do the factory tour again. I'm just going to say to Javier on the way out, can I get a Strag deck?
There's only 100 of them, and I've got them all. No, I've given a few of them away, but there's only 100 of them in the world. That's all they made.
Brilliant,
amazing.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Have you signed them as well when you give them away?
No, you know what? I forgot to do that. I'll have to go back.
Fintan,
and claim them back from people.
Merch idea.
Deck of cards.
There you go.
We're the Jokers. Writes itself.
Look at this. There you go.
Come on, Ice.
And then the printed rules is how to play bullshit. Chop them.
How to record a podcast.
Well, I don't know if I know I know shithead. I don't know bullshit.
Oh no, shithead. Sorry, it's shithead.
Chris, we were talking about this the other week because I was saying, and I haven't quite figured out how to do this.
This is the perfect man to ask. This is the man to ask.
So the end game in shithead, when you've got your 3 face down cards and your 3 face up cards.
Yeah.
Right. That on its own would be a fantastic casino game. But I can't figure out how to put a house edge into it.
Well, So it'd be very, very difficult. It'd be very, very difficult.
But in terms of understanding the game, I mean, it's a beauty. It's like,
well, the thing I found about Shithead is like everybody has their own rules, right? Like everybody's got different rules for Shithead, like what matters and what each card does and what they don't do.
Obviously, you'd have to standardize the rules, and you'd have a table felt printed with in brown, obviously.
Of course. What else?
It brands itself.
No, but it's great. In fact, my wife and I were just playing the other night. We love to play. It's great fun. It's a great game. And yeah, in fact, I was taught that in Amsterdam one year. I was sitting in a cafe and basically paid for my trip by the guy who taught me how to play it. We were playing €5 a game, and he managed to lose €250 to me.
As he's teaching you the game.
As he's teaching me the game.
It's like something out of The Color of Money, isn't it? This
out. I was like, is it supposed to be this easy? Because it was really easy. It was just I've been playing card games my whole life, and I just picked up on it right away. It was just so easy. The one that I struggle with is Spoof, though. I think Spoof is probably one of the best British inventions ever. And I think
we played a lot of that in college.
Amazing games that you could just be like, you're at a pub and you're bored. Hey, let's all play Spoof. All you need is 3 coins. Boom, we're done. What a game. What a game.
But Fintan, Gambling Files podcast playing cards.
There you go. It used to happen.
Sponsored ones for ice.
Look at that.
We put the spades. So then we let them bid for aces. Who gets the ace of spades? There you go. This
is why you're, a guru and chairman, and I'm just some bloke with no hair.
No, man. It's okay.
I should get a wig attached to this. I should get a wig attached to the headband on my headphones, shouldn't I?
I was thinking again, it's mouse ears. It was Pinky in the Brain.
Oh, yeah.
Pinky in the Brain. I like
that. A very good shout. I was telling my kids about Pinky in the Brain the other day. And Rebecca, my significant other, I was telling her about them as well because, she popular culture. She was busy listening to folk music. Yeah,
too sophisticated.
And she's like, yeah, that sounds good. No, it's really good.
Pinky in the Brain was one of those things that was actually not good for kids, but was great for the adults that were watching it with the kids.
It's the best. They're the best cartoons, though.
Chris, everybody asked this. Nobody's seen it. Did you ever see the Christmas special of Pinky in the Brain? It won every award possible. It's the episode where they succeed in taking over the world.
Is that the one where they have to, do they kidnap Father Christmas or something? I can't remember.
That's
every question. Other Christmas special by every other cartoon. Though.
Now, I'm not sure that they do. They develop and market with great success the must-have children's toy for Christmas.
I did, yes. I have seen that one. Yes.
And it honestly makes me cry every damn time.
That could have been an episode of Doctor Who.
An amazing piece of writing. Don't talk to me about Doctor Who. Are you a Doctor Who fan, Chris?
Yeah. Well, mostly.
So my old school friend Toby gets mentioned on this podcast a lot. Fintan has suggested that he doesn't exist.
It's just John's imaginary friend. That's fine.
Toby has made a career out of Doctor Who. Toby's a comedian and a writer, and his name's Toby Haydoke, and he does a lot of commentaries on Doctor Who DVDs and stuff like that, and presents documentaries on them and stuff. So if you're aware of him, could you convince Fintan that he exists, please?
I've never heard of him. Sorry.
For fuck's sake. He's real. I'll get him on the... I'm going to text him now.
I was going to say, if he's so real, clearly he must be a guest at some point, and you've now got your perfect segue into having him on the show. So there you go.
Just one word, podcast. We just text when somebody that we love dies. So my last text from him was Charles Cypher's R.I.P. Charles Cypher's was in about 8 movies in his entire career. But they were all really good. Anyway.
I couldn't even tell you.
Well, one of them was Halloween.
Fintan has this look on his face movie.
He sees me do this all the time.
He's got this look on his face like, here he goes again. Just nod and smile.
I go to my special place. It's like when people start talking Dutch around me.
Your special place is Belgium.
God, no.
Belgium is another great country for playing cards, by the way. Turnout, Belgium is where the playing card museum is.
Now that makes a lot of sense. I bet they've got a lot of very dull museums.
Just off an entire country, why don't you, John? Go for it.
Anybody listening in Belgium, I'm just kidding.
Not our Belgium sponsors. That's fine.
No, we could get a Belgium sponsor, though. We could get the playing card museum, probably.
There you go. Get the playing card museum. Exactly. Who better?
Yeah.
Who needs playing cards more than a bunch of gamblers and industry professionals who are definitely going to need customized playing cards for all their merchandising needs?
The must-have gift, Christmas 2024. So this is all feeding into the Pinky and the Brain Christmas special.
I think the Gambling Files podcast cards will be the must-have merch from ICE 2025.
Can be arranged.
How could it miss?
Mark my words.
How could it miss?
Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. It was very, very much appreciated, and letting us pick your brain, etc.
No.
Thank you.
It was great
so
to see
much
you
fun
again,
for me.
Chris. Thanks
I
so
love to talk about poker, and it's been a lot of fun.